the minutes of December 7th. Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made to those minutes from the board?
No additions.
Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the updates for the committee appointments. We have two reappointments to the DDA, Ms. Audrey Pickles, who's in the audience, the Housing Commission, Mr. Mahal. All right. First item, yes, if you want to address that, so the first item is the reappointment to the DDA, Ms. Audrey Pickles.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be reconsidered, reappointed to the DDA. We're excited about some of the things that we've got coming up, especially with the State Theater, which I have fond memories of. And we're really we've got some new energy on the board now, and we're really feeling good about what we can do with the city going forward. So thank you for this opportunity once again to be part of this board and to be part of the momentum that's going on downtown Benton Harbor.
So Ms. Peoples, thank you for serving and congratulations with everything that's happening with the business.
Thank you.
Things downtown, but what has been one thing this year that you are super proud about? You talked about the overall. What is one thing that you were involved in that you were the most proud of in terms of what you guys were able to accomplish this year?
I think overall we have some really good people on the board, some strong members of the community, Roger Lang being one, Bill Stoller, I believe, is no longer up, but the people who are Richard Rabbers, these are people who really care about Benton Harbor. And so I've been on a committee where we've put together the Benton Harbor Now. It's a welcome center. That's the blue container right there at the corner of 5th and Territorial. And to get that thing up and running, we've been working on that since last year. And to get it up and running, we've got a landing page website, and we've got some people who have boots to the ground that we're looking to really get businesses, and even those small businesses, those who don't really have a brick and mortar, to get them involved and get them active on the website so that when people go to the Benton Harbor Now website, they can click on the various businesses or services that the city has, and be able to really kind of go out in the community and not only support these businesses, but the city overall. So I'm pretty stoked to be part of that committee. I'm also stoked to be part of the committee that will eventually get the State Theater up and running again. Again, I have fond memories as a child and going to the theater with my family and my dad. And so those would be the two factions, but more or less the Benton Harbor Landing Site and the Benton Harbor Welcome Center. And we're getting more and more attention to that. So I'm really proud to be part of that initiative.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee for Ms. Peoples?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Chef Audrey.
Yes.
Yes. Still, you've been a big asset to the city in downtown area. You got business, you could have went anywhere, but you stayed downtown.
Absolutely. Mhm.
And I see you part of the Benton Harbor Arts Association too.
Yes.
So that's great.
Mhm.
So yes, I can support this.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
that.
wanting to
I
serve.
appreciate it. It's much love for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll move this
Yes,
appointment
consensus.
to the next commission meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for your time.
The next item on the agenda is update from the Dollar Board.
Hi, good evening. I have some handouts. Is it okay if I?
Thank you.
I have more. Okay, so I am, is it okay if I just stand back here so everybody can see me? Okay. So hi, I'm Angel Creighton and
Hold on
I'm
for a
the
minute, Ms. Gray. Can the cameras and sound pick her up standing there? Okay.
Okay, great. I'm Angel Creighton, and I'm the executive director at Dollar Rye. I started in February. It's been an opportunity, a great opportunity and a pleasure to serve this community. I am born and raised here in Benton Harbor. I'm a graduate of Benton Harbor High School. And I went on to Western Michigan University to get a degree. Went on to Cambridge College to further my education. And so I was a teacher for 9 years, administrator, instructional coach. So I've had a lot of experience. I've worked at DHS, and so I have a lot of experience working in community development, human development. And so I started my journey at Takata in February, and like I said, it's been an opportunity, a great opportunity to serve you guys in this community. I made this handout, and so it started off as being my notes, but then I realized we might have some technical difficulties, so I decided to make copies for everyone. I stand before you here. I just want to give you kind of like a 10-month glance of what my experience at Takata has been. It's been a great experience, and I think we have definitely redeveloped the company. Some may not recognize it, but definitely some great changes. So today I'm going to share with you, I just shared my introduction to kind of who I am. We're going to go over some observations that were made when I started or before I started, some goals that I started with, some gains that we've made, areas of focus, and celebrations and next steps. Okay, so when I first started, Takata goes under what they call a triennial review. And so most companies get a review yearly. At Takata, we're reviewed every 3 years, which is triennial. So we get a triennial review every 3 years. And so I had the opportunity to kind of walk in after the triennial review, which was a great thing for me because I had like an outline of all of the things that the federal government or the FTA felt that was needed in order for Takata to be in good standing. And so some of the major financial observations that were made, banking accounts weren't being reconciled each month, fare boxes were being loosely monitored, no separation of duties. Basically, if you ask me, it was more than not more of a manual way of doing things, which can kind of look like mismanagement sometimes. But I think when you do things manually, and then after like post-COVID, looking at things in a post-COVID world where everyone is working remotely from across the country, I think, the expectations were different, and then we kind of magnified or looked at in a closer lens things that we didn't realize we didn't have access to. And so with that, I think we got a lot of dings for not having an updated process with QuickBooks and our accounting practices. And so another major thing is that debit cards are being used. And if you guys know, in this world right now with a lot of scams and schemes and identity theft, it's dangerous to use the debit card when making purchases. And just with the access of having this liquid asset and everyone having access to that. So those are some of the big overarching issues that the triennial review felt that Takata was faced with and needed corrective action. From a human resource standpoint, if you move to the next slide, I noticed and some other entities noticed that the union contract, we do have a union for our bus drivers and dispatchers and maintenance staff. And so they're under a union contract, but we noticed that the union contract was being loosely implemented and followed. Different positions didn't have job descriptions. Personnel files were incomplete. And so it was just some things that needed to be updated again. and some more solid practices that needed to be in place. If you move on to the maintenance and some of the observations and maintenance, my main observation is that the building was cluttered. We also needed to do an asset management plan and an architectural engineering plan to figure out, okay, what is the condition of the building? I think right now, post-COVID, a lot of companies and entities received a lot of funding, right, to make improvements, but one smart thing to do to protect your assets, to actually do a plan and an assessment to find out, okay, what is the condition of the building before we start putting Band-Aids on those things. And so that was one of the things that was recommended. It was funny because when I walked in, someone said, well, you need this A&E plan. And I said, well, I don't need. The engineer told me that the roof is leaking because, it's a bucket and it's a spot. And so that was kind of funny. But as we started to actually unpack and think about some of those things, that's exactly what we need. And so some of the other major things I noticed in the change of leadership, it's always a building security thing. And so I think my second week on the job, we had a break-in and it was kind of funny, but it wasn't funny. But the person just walked up to the door and opened the door. And so it's still been mind-boggling for me, but it definitely right on gave me some on-the-job training, got the keys, the locks rekeyed, and I actually signed out who, would get locks and keys to the locks. And so it was just a lot of things that were going on that, you don't necessarily know what you don't know. And so those are just some of the major observations at the beginning of my tenure here at Takata. And so if you move on to some of my primary goals, and I know I just kind of told you some of the problems, but I'm going to get into some of the things that we've actually done now to kind of tell you where we are now. So some of my primary goals, right off hearing the things that I shared with you, I knew that I needed to create a financial plan to figure out, okay, what are some of our big wins that we must do in order to stay in operation? I didn't share that when I started, it was about $40,000 in a banking account. And I had to make payroll, which is about $38,000. And so I'm like, okay, my grandmother used to say, this is robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So I was like, what am I supposed to do? Which led me back to the triennial review. We're under restriction. You're under restriction. You have to correct these things before we release any money. And so I said, okay, what can we do? And so we started looking and we have a partnership with U of M. So I started saying, okay, what are some of the things that we do in order to generate revenue, right? So I looked at the partnership with U of M that I read about before I was even interested in pursuing a career in Takata. So that was a generating revenue generating account. So we contacted them, invoiced them, was able to get some funding from them. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then I found out that we get a local millage from the city. So we get a check every month from the city. So, money started coming in slowly. We get some money from the state. We just have to submit these OAR reports in order to get our match from the state, because we get a match from the state. It's like about 33%. And so it was all of these things that I started learning and asking questions. And so, the money started coming in slowly, but we're still under a financial restriction with the FTA. And so the FTA wanted the whole plan corrected before releasing money. So, it's like, okay, cool, but we have enough to at least, make payroll and stay in operation. And so we created this financial management plan, which came along financial procedures. And so that was one of my primary goals. I got a little excited. I started explaining before I get to that point. But also another goal was to actually make sure that we look at the HR department and figure out, okay, do we have a qualified person in this position to make sure that we're operating, which was another finding. It was a civil rights finding under that triennial review. So then the last goal was to, okay, Now let's come up with where's most of the money being spent, and it was in maintenance. And so we created a maintenance plan to figure out, okay, what are the accounts payable procedures? How can we reduce spending and maintenance? And so those are the three major things that I had to do early on, right? Boots on the ground, in the beginning. And so some of the secondary goals, and these are things that I'm trying to do right now with my team, the website, rebranding, marketing, a routing app, electric buses, and then an increase in local match. So basically, just to kind of not take up too much more time, I do want to run through some of the gains that we've made now that you're aware of the condition that we were in when I started. Here are some of the gains and celebrations. We've contracted with Hunger for Nichols, a county firm. They came in, all hands on deck, wraparound support with their entire accounting team. The board supported this. We went forward and we contracted with them to get some high-level executive accountants in place that had best practices and that could help me kind of get this company in good standing. And so we did that through our RFP process. We noticed from that, and this is something that might, another entity might be able to use, but we noticed that we were paying them out of local funds because there's a procurement process through the FTA and the state in which you have to contract services, you have to do this bidding process. And so we were paying them dollar for dollar. And then I learned through this RFP process that we can actually use it under operating if we do RFP. And so that was a great win for us because those services are definitely expensive. We went to a Bill.com automated accounts payable system. Everything is electronic. All the bills, everything is electronic. I don't have to type checks on the typewriter and sign them. There's dual monitoring. Everyone can see it. And then I just sign the check electronically. So that's been perfect for us. It saves a lot of time. We've increased the efficiency of our board reports because now we don't have pages and pages and pages. Accounts are being reconciled and everything is being coded correctly. And so that's definitely been helpful. And the board can actually hold us accountable and we can be 100% transparent. We've created capital management improvement plans. We have a better process for cash management. Definitely some cost savings plans. I just pretty much put everything on the spending freeze and we paid absolutely what we had to. And now we're in really good shape financially. This ECHO drawdown process, that's the restriction that we're under. And so that's how we actually get the money from the FTA. And so now we have to go through several hoops still because it's not an instant process to actually get removed. Once you're under restriction, you kind of got to climb out slowly and build your trust. So we're still doing that and working on that now. Some other things, we had a lot of CARES money, and so it was interesting to have to do a scavenger hunt to kind of backwards figure out where the money was spent for CARES. And I saw a big article in the paper, and I was like, okay, I know, like, from going through this process, that it's not that, so I'm glad that they corrected that. That was just a side note because I went through the process and I know some things that we had to do. And yeah, so that article, but I do appreciate that. Also, like I said, the U of M helped us a lot with that partnership, resources. That's a partnership that we do still currently have. And so that's exciting. And so one last thing, we have an approved vendor list now. So we're not just paying people to do whatever. We actually go through a real process to make sure, there's a DBE standard that we'd like to get a disabled business enterprise, the DBE. But there are certain things that we like to do that are best practices from the FTA, the state of Michigan, MDOT. So we have an approved vendor list now, and it doesn't make it harder, but it makes sure that the vendors that we're using are actually bonded. Some things from HR, from the HR standpoint, we've put some procedures in place, and the staff is not always happy, but I think it's been rewarded. We have a time clock system now where it's digital. I don't have to go through and count minutes and seconds and convert it to hours and then do payroll. So that's been really exciting. They can clock in right on the iPad. They can actually look on their cell phones to check their time, to look at their pay stubs, all at the tip of their fingers. We have a recorded line now that they can call in. They don't have to try to figure out and get through the phone system. So it's just been a lot of things that we've put in place that has really helped. And ultimately, it helped us to give our employees a raise. And so they got a big raise in October. It was approved October 31st by the board. Some employees got $2 and some got $4. And so it's been really exciting, or at least I was excited to make it right, to do right by them. You know, everything is so expensive. I went to the store to get groceries and 4 bags was $75, you know, and so I was glad to have that opportunity to do right by employees who hadn't gotten a real raise and didn't have a fair living wage. And then lastly, in maintenance, one big thing that we learned is that when you take care of your assets will take care of you. And so one big thing I'm proud of is that we do preventative maintenance on our vehicles. And so we were looking at $10,000 to $13,000 in maintenance costs a month on our vehicles. And now we're down to, no lie, about $1,500 just from doing the preventative maintenance, having a check and balance system, having an accounts payable system, and having separation of duties where the person that's shopping is not the person that's approving the payments. And so that has really helped us tremendously. And so my last area that I wanted to share, my areas of focus that I plan to continue to work on. And one day, hopefully, you guys will recognize Takata. It'll be a 21st century transportation center, hopefully by the summer. You know, we crack jokes all the time. You know, my grandmother used to say I was young and reckless because I'm overly optimistic. Just celebrated my 40th birthday, and I think time waits on no one. So, you know, everyone is moving around us in this country and definitely in Southwest Michigan. And so we have to make some growth and some gains fast. And so the last couple things I want to share are my areas of focus. Right off the bat, starting off the year, working on this customer service plan. We have to improve the wait time. I know, I hear it. I'm at the stores. I have family members that rely on the transportation, public transportation. So we know we're working on it, improving wait time, efficient ways to schedule rides, and then alternative payment options. Again, it's the 21st century. You know, we have to go to other things besides cash. And so we're definitely listening. Some other things that we're working on, some professional development for our employees. I think it'll improve the morale amongst the employees, and also it'll definitely improve the customer experience. Communications, we just celebrated. I was with Takata for the first holiday season, and I was getting inboxes and different calls about when we were going to be open. And we made flyers, and we had some different forms of advertisement. But, you know, one thing that we're working on is an automated system. If you have a kid in school, you might get a text message or email or a phone call as an automated system. And so that's something that we're working on. We should have that up and running by the spring. And then a social media presence. Everyone right now, at least within my generation and younger, we rely on social media for everything. If it's not on social media, we don't believe that it's real. And so we're definitely working on our social media presence. Community partnerships, we can't do this without the community. It takes a village for sure. So we're working on some stakeholder opportunities. Hopefully we'll have a stakeholder retreat. We've been brainstorming ideas. I've been, as much as I can with my team, attending different activities all across the city. Monthly, we make sure we attend at least one activity to get the word out and to develop partnerships. And then lastly, we have to work on some protocols and procedures to make sure that we're inspecting what we expect. And so this employee handbooks, establishing best practices, and then continue to train the staff. So lastly, just on the back page, you'll see our board of trustees listed. It's Atwillie Williams, David Gray, Dorothy Parker, who's here with me today, Felicia Smith, And Mr. Edwards was also here today. And then the rest listed is the team, the administration team.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Very well done. Anybody have any questions? Great presentation.
Chair, yes, I just got one question. Mr. Executive, how is the employee morale? Is it upbeat, people happy coming to work? How is it?
That's a hard question. So basically, I think it's a mix. You have some people that's been there upward of 17 years who, don't like change, is afraid of change, and they've not had another job in 17 years, so they don't really have a whole lot to compare to, right? And then you have some people that started within the last year, probably at least 25% of the people started since I've been here, 2022, and they're really excited. They've had other jobs. They realize that, the work is not hard. It's just a matter of doing what you're supposed to do. It's a different arena for them. They're excited about it. And so that's one thing that, I've been in a struggle with because, to be honest, it's been really difficult gauging and the things that I'm used to that normally improve those things. They've not been working. And so we are just looking for opportunities to continue to improve, to be honest. It's been a struggle. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I had a question. When is starting pay, and do you pay first one to take the class if they don't already got their CDLs?
Okay. So starting pay for CDL drivers between $15 to $17. And we don't actually pay for it. There are community partners that actually got grants for our area. They didn't actually give us the money directly. They gave it to some of the other area agencies, and so we refer you to those agencies and we partner for you to get that training.
Is there any, thank you, that was a really great report, very in-depth. Mr. Little?
Yes, you had an audit done recently, did you not? We'd like to get a copy of it, and also the last framing letter.
Okay, no problem. Yep. So we got an audit. We're actually up to get another audit. It'll be due by March, and so we'll get a new audit. We have the 2022 audit that we can definitely get you a copy of, email tomorrow, and then try to review.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Glad to see you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Dollar Ride has been around for a long time and very supported by the community. So when it has a hardship, the people feel it. And I know that there's been some leadership change in the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm so glad to see that there is some measurable things that are going on. But when the thing that you hear, that I hear too, a 2 to 3 hour wait. Now, those are the kind of conversations that it had when I was on the board. And it was just, we couldn't believe that people were complaining about that 2 to 3 hour wait. So we started doing things to fix that. And that was our number one, was citizen, giving them the service. And I know that you have to fix this inner stuff too. But my question is, what have you put in place to cut those wait times down for the citizen?
Thank you. One thing that I forgot to mention under the HR is the schedule. One thing that I noticed when I started, I would ask, okay, who's supposed to work? Because we would have 4 call-ins, but we didn't have a schedule. And so I would say, well, who's working? And he could read off to me in his head who's working, what line, whatever. I'm visual. And so one thing that I did early on was implementing a schedule. So we have a schedule now to actually see who is at work and a process for calling in drivers if we have increase in calls. And so we put a schedule in place. We now have a good balance of the amount of drivers we need during certain times. We use our fleet management, which is the Verizon Fleet Network. It was implemented through that U of M partnership a few years ago. And so we're actually using that now. And in real time, 3 seconds, you can look and see where drivers are and are supposed to be. The challenge is now teaching the drivers that, doing your job is not a violation, and holding you accountable for doing your job is not a violation of the union contract, right? Like, as an employee, we can ask you or mandate you to do your job, which is picking up your customers, following the dispatch orders, and closing out your rides in the tablet. And so those are some of the things that we're looking at, and we're working really hard. We are getting a lot of pushback to Mr. Commissioner Isom's point. It's been causing friction holding drivers accountable. But, I can get all of the skeletal things together in the business office, but I need the drivers and the dispatchers to work together to get the customers from point A to point B. So that's been my biggest hurdle, trying to make that connection with them and teaching and ensuring that they understand how important that is.
I have one last question and then we'll move on. Do you have any system in place to do a productivity incentive for the stuff that you just talked about? So if drivers are meeting a certain time frame, then they get some kind of reward for following those productivity incentives.
Yeah, so I didn't actually put it in place. I'm not gonna take credit for it, but we've been trying to keep it going. We do have driver of the month incentives. And so it's so funny because a few months ago, I think it was October, we had a retreat. And so every month at the board meeting, we recognize the driver of the month. So for the last couple of months, we've kind of broken it down because it was a big fight, not a real fight. But in October, we had a part-time driver that had 600 and something rides, and a full-time driver had 900 and something rides. But the average full-time driver has 500 and something rides. So we were trying to figure out, so really it would be impossible, right, for this part-time driver to beat the full-time driver. So we definitely need to subcategorize these incentives. But it was a good talking point and a good conversation for that retreat, because why should a part-time driver have more rides than a full-time driver with overtime? And so we definitely put some things in place to look at that. And as we look at this new union agreement, this is our year to open our new contract. So I definitely want to put some things and incentives in that contract to be able to incentivize these things.
That was a problem when I was there.
Does anybody have any other questions before we move to the next item? Thank you so much. It was a very, very well put together.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
The next item on the agenda is the Armory Subcommittee, and I don't think anybody's here. The next item is the resolution to provide for setting the alternative for the March Board of Rule. The city assessor.
Take it. Every year about this time, I come to you with 3 resolutions. One of them is just to give us a little bit of leeway when scheduling for the March board review to happen. The state says that we can have that leeway if we pass a resolution. So that is the first resolution, just to provide for alternate start dates. The second resolution, again, this is one that comes to you yearly. The law provides for non-resident property owners to appeal their valuations to the March Board Review by letter. However, the law does not provide that opportunity to residents. So we can provide that to residents by this resolution, so that we have cases where it may conflict with work, or sometimes there's a family emergency, or something that would get in the way of a resident to come in and appeal. And this way they can send in a letter in their place. Okay. The third resolution is setting our income limits for purposes of the Board of Review granting poverty exemptions. So there are federal guidelines to the income. I don't know if you recall last year, we took those federal guidelines and we added 6% to those numbers just to have a little bit of leeway. The law says that we can make it easier to qualify if we wish. We cannot make it harder. So we cannot lower these incomes, but we can raise them. So the one that I provided to you is under the same premise that we went with last year. I took the federal income guidelines and I added 6% to them, and then that's what I'm proposing to you. And that's all three of them.
Are there any questions from? Is there any questions? Go ahead.
I just wanna ask a question about assets.
Yes.
Is that negotiable or is that?
Yes, that $6,000 in assets, that certainly is. That number, I think we settled on probably my first year here. And then every time I presented, it's just I fill in the blank with that same number. So if the commission wishes to change that 6,000 to something else, they certainly can.
I want the chair to recognize that.
We change it every year.
We're on the poverty, so, okay, sorry.
So we change it every year.
I just want the chair to recognize that the asset value could assist our people a little bit more if it was higher. Sometimes, especially when they went to Southwest Action Agency, they were over that. Heck, a car costs $50,000-$60,000.
So this is the 6,000. Each claimant, each licensed driver in the household is allowed one car that won't be included in this.
Right,
So this would be
I see
extra
that. It
vehicles.
excludes homestead and vehicle.
Yeah.
But, I'll just say this, with our community being consumers, and all we know, and our young people, they like bling bling, so I'm thinking that maybe we should really revisit the $6,000 of asset value.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? We'll go before the full body. You're saying change this. So what was it last year when we, because we go through this every year, and I'm looking at, for each additional is 5,000. But what was that number before? Was that already a predetermined number, the 6,000?
Oh, there's no like federal guideline for that. So that 6,000,
Can you explain to us what that would mean to the residents if they had over $6,000 in value?
it would mean they wouldn't qualify for
Right, I
this.
was gonna say,
And the premise is, so, if somebody comes in for poverty exemption, they're saying that they cannot pay their property taxes, right? So the premise of this is that if we don't look at their house, the value of their home, and we don't look at the value of their vehicle, right, for every licensed driver in the house, okay, if we take those out of the equation, the premise is that, all right, any other assets that they have, could be, and possibly, depending on your opinion, should be used to dispose of and pay their property taxes. So this just allows that $6,000 cushion, And that would include any bank accounts, any
Boats,
boats, toys,
dogs.
snowmobiles, stamp collection, whatever, you know. Everything except their one car and their home.
I think that's actually fair, the number 6,000. I mean, if your property tax is a priority. So if you had 20 or 30,000 assets, why would you not pay your property taxes? So I think the number is fair.
Assets don't necessarily mean
I
money.
understand that, but if you have a responsibility to liquidate, you have to liquidate an asset. That's my opinion. I agree with this number, is what I'm saying.
Well, I just think we need to give any opportunity for Benton Harbor residents to utilize any system that they need. And like I said, a boat, a motorcycle, there's a lot of things that could add that up. And us being consumers, that's what we do. So I just wish we would kind of put some compassion in the things that we do.
So I have a question, what number are you suggesting that we put there?
75.
$7,500?
Oh.
So you're saying raising the income that somebody can have in order to qualify,
I want to do that. I want to do that too.
The asset.
the asset?
Because I'm talking about the assets now,
Yeah.
but I like to look at raising the income as well. If you look at the 2020 census, the average income is not 14,455. You got to make sure that the middle people have some avenue to get some kind of relief. I mean, I know some of us are blessed and highly favored, and we don't worry about menial things, everyday life things. But you gotta have some compassion when we're dealing with our people.
But then if you go down, Commissioner, there is a $49,000, 428.
I know.
There is an amount in there
I
to
know.
address that part.
If we can access,
There's
change
nearly
the
$50,000.
the value of the asset. Next year, I'll work on the income.
So it'll go, what is this?
I mean, it's 1,500. You're saying 7,500, right?
$7,500.
Assets.
So
Just a little bit more.
it's not significant, so.
We can propose 7,500.
Yeah, we could plug that in before it goes to the commission,
Yeah.
full commission, right?
It'll go to the full commission.
Should be 25.
So we'll, move this forward with those changes of, the $1,500 tab.
Yes, compassion, compassion.
All right, let's move those three,
Compassion and care.
items, onto the full body. Do you
Yes.
Agree to that? All right.
Since-
Thank you, and please excuse me.
Yep, yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item number 6, and I think this is, Mr. Little. Resolution to amend the ordinance pertaining to, medical marijuana licensing.
Yes, actually, the resolution is to merge the number of licenses permitted under each into one grouping for all marijuana licenses. When the process started, there was just a medical marijuana. And initially, it was anticipated and worked out to be that way, that once they passed the adult use license or ordinance, that it would be dependent on a person having first had a medical marijuana. That's all gone away now. It's no longer a requirement. So we're suggesting a schedule there to change the number of licenses. that also in part takes into consideration certain factors such as on the grower licenses, for example. Initially, there was, I believe, 3 Class A, 3 Class C, and 3 Class B, and 4 Class C. There's only been one user, I believe, of one of the Class A or B, and most people are asking for a Class C. So we suggested increasing the number of those.
Does the committee have any comments about this?
Yes. Rick Little, can you run that by me one more time? Sure, all of it. All of that.
What the schedule is showing down there at the
Yeah,
bottom,
I'm looking right at it,
is showing the number of licenses that were authorized under the medical marijuana
yeah.
and under the adult marijuana ordinances. There were 3 each Class A growers.
Right.
There were 3 each Class B growers, and there were 4 each Class C growers. We recognize that that could not have been the intent to have the total number of licenses here. If you add all those up, you're talking about close to 40 licenses. So we have basically worked off of the one number, 3, 3, 4, 7, and so forth. As I indicated, there has only been one license issued under the Class A or B. So what we're suggesting here is, let's go ahead and set the number
Mhm.
for total licenses, whether they're medical or adult, at 4 for Class A,
Okay.
4 for Class B.
Mhm.
Let's increase C, which is the one that most people have been applying for, to 8.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Processors, there was 7 authorized under each of these originally. If I recall correctly, I think you've only issued 1 processor.
Okay.
And so we reduced that number to 5. Transporters, there were 3 authorized under each. We've had no applications for transporters at all.
Mhm.
So we're saying let's make the total number 3. Same with safety compliance, we've had no applicants.
Mhm.
Micro business had 3 licenses authorized under the adult ordinance. And we've really been surprised that we have no licenses issued under micro business. So we suggested leave it at 3. Consumption center, we had 1 that was authorized. None have been issued yet, although 1 has been applied for and a second one has been inquired about. There was some suggestions that maybe we should offer the opportunity for a consumption center to each of the 6 original licensees that have licenses to do it. Provisioning center, there were 6, we're saying leave it at 6. And we're suggesting the retail facility number be increased from 6 to 9. You'll recall that retail centers only came into being under the adult license.
Oh,
And that's what most people are inquiring about and wanting to use. And that's what, for want of a better term, if you say competition, the other communities around are going, issuing retail licenses only. We sort of have the advantage in a sense that we've got several already.
Mhm.
And they're bringing a lot of people with high disposable income into the community. There've not been a lot of problems or anything associated with it. So we feel if we increase the number And we don't think it's gonna take any business from the existing ones, but will just facilitate more people who want to go to a retail facility. If they know they can walk up and down the street and compare prices and look at several others, that they'll come here as opposed to one that's out in the middle of somewhere on a rural route is.
So are we, from a total perspective, are we, because I know we're kind of decreasing some, are we gonna be around the same amount total with the new proposal?
I would suspect that we probably will, although I would expect that there may be at least a couple of increases in the retail facilities. And I do think that at least one more consumption center may apply in the not too distant future. We've had inquiries about it, but nothing has materialized yet.
So with the retail facilities, because I don't necessarily agree that we need to add more retail facilities, I would prefer that that license stay the same.
What they saying?
Huh?
What do a retail
From having
facility say?
the adults.
We,
Yeah. I don't wanna, I
and
don't
what
necessarily.
what is a pavilion center then?
Medical.
Oh, okay.
Is that like, so the ones that are currently downtown,
Yeah.
that's what we're calling retail,
Yes.
right? Like Novo and,
Yeah.
so the,
Yes.
And
so they're all in the same area, so the proposal is to add more so you can shop around, is that what you're saying?
And just increase the traffic to downtown. Because the point of view that I'm looking at here is their potential impact on other business in our downtown area. The shortcoming that Benhara has always had is every market study takes issue with the lack of limited disposable income. They recognize that for food and necessities, drugs and so forth, that there's a certain level that's necessary, but that's always been being served from outside the CVS and Walgreens and whatnot. But with these people coming into downtown in significant numbers, that is going to change that picture in terms of the amount of higher level disposable income individuals within that radius that could help us in terms of attracting everything else from fast food restaurants to you name
Trader Joe's downtown.
it.
Question from audience member.
In regards to the consumption, you said you guys were originally at 1 and you wanted to possibly increase that to 6. And I heard you mention that to possibly give the current license holders the option of having a consumption center or
The
area in
opportunity to
their
apply.
establishment.
Yes.
Now, would that be in stipulation based upon actually having the consumption area in the location versus possibly having 6 different consumption
No,
facilities?
in most instances, they may not be able to because there is a complete set of requirements that's in the law for a consumption center. Things like being able to have an exhaust system that guarantees that there's no smell within a certain distance and that kind of thing. So they may not physically be able to achieve that. And once again, I don't necessarily expect that we're going to, even if we have 6, get 6. I think it just provides the opportunity if the others decide they want to apply for one to be able to do so.
So the proposal would be for 6 consumption
Yes.
centers, whether it be inside the current facility and or away.
Well, right.
So we're looking at we could be looking at, maybe not likely, but has an option to have 6 standalone consumption shops.
Could be in theory.
And then also 9 total? How many marijuana facilities are already, 6 total? Do we have all licenses been?
You have 6 licenses that are issued, 3 of which are open and operating. One that I believe is near, actually 2 near and operate, but one closer to it than the other.
So you have 3, 4, 5, so you have 5, that's all, the licenses that's already been allocated.
Actually 6 that the
Oh, all
licenses have
6.
already been allocated, but that 6 we're not really seeing much of anything currently.
It's a lot. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying to drive business, but I don't think Ben Harbor wants to be the weed capital of Southwest Michigan either.
Why not?
We already are.
Well,
I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
And that's the
you're
decision.
gonna need a lot more greasy restaurants is what I'm like. You don't have that many more. Right, yeah, we need some more restaurants. Go ahead.
I like to see more restaurants too. But what I would like to see out of the marijuana industry, what came in these chambers and we actually talked the community into allowing it to happen, otherwise it would not have happened. Then you got all of these promises that they made to us in the process of getting what they wanted. Now, this is another year, and I really went out of my way to help them get active and running. Now it's time. I know they've made millions and millions of dollars sitting in this city in on top of us, and they have not yet one time come and asked for anything to help maybe the Bogo Basil Center, maybe 2,000 Paw get us up and running, doing something on our own. This is a new year. We asked for it. They said they would assist us, and I know I wasn't the only one who heard them say that. So I think how they say, you call for the card, or call for the process, or get them in here to do something for the city. Add on to some of the projects that we really want to do. And it's the beginning of the year, so I think this is a good time to ask. Call all the cards out. Get everything done for the citizens instead of doing everything else for somebody else. Let's think about that. Let's think about what they promised us. If you don't remember, go back and look at what they said. You guys know how to do that, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I don't think they've made millions yet, but
Well,
I do anticipate in this coming year, making some requests to them. I think you're right.
well, really, we shouldn't have to make any request to them. They should come in here and do it for us since they made these promises. That's why I'm not trying to put it all on you guys, because it's not on you. It's on them to do what they promised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be short. I don't think we need any more. We already at 6. We small. I know that people come for Eleanor and sometimes run Rapids, but we at 6. We don't need no more. I mean, this don't make sense to me.
Thank you.
So I had to think about this, and I'm still kind of thinking about it. I want us to look at things holistically. The more applications, the more money we get for the fee, right?
Right.
Then the more tax
Right.
money we're getting,
Right.
then the more jobs we're also getting.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not a marijuana smoker, so I wouldn't lobby for it. But thinking about it from a financial perspective, do we have any idea or like how many jobs that it brought, that they hired from Benton Harbor? Like, do we know that information? Because I mean, if truly our citizens are getting jobs, I mean, we got to look at it at the big picture, not only what industry it is. I don't know.
I believe quite a few of our people are here. And you did key in on and that is the dollars. For whatever reason, when the state put their law together, they didn't allow the community to tax it. And the money we get from them is not based on the amount of sales they get or whatever. It's made based on the number of that are in business.
Mhm.
And that's what we get paid on. And I'm also mindful of the fact that, as we said, we have 6 licenses that have been out there since December of 2020, I believe. Yeah. And you've only got now 3 fully operational and 2 about to start operating. So if you did have these additional licenses, the chances are that you get a couple of them that may come on in and open up while these others are still sitting on their licenses.
Mhm.
It helps you in terms of the revenue to the city. It helps you in terms of jobs to the city. And as I said, it does increase the number of people coming into downtown with high disposable income. You can look at the parking lots that are full with big new cars and whatnot. That stuff attracts attention. And I can guarantee you, once the first fast food operation goes down here, we'll have a race on for them, because they follow each other. But not only fast food, but other businesses, because there'll be evidence that there are people down here who can afford to spend the money and pay for things. But that's just a train of thought. It's up to commission.
And then
to
one other
decide.
thing I think you said was we have not seen an increase in crime. Is that what I heard? Or
I
If you
have
speak
not
on
seen
that.
any additional problems.
It's probably the most secure place, a camera everywhere.
Yeah.
Down there, so it's probably one of the most
Yeah,
secure
St. Harbor
places
is-
to
So
be.
it has technically not done anything
Around the
negative.
corner.
And that's one of the things that's going to be important for us, because we're overcoming a 40-year-old perception
Right, right.
that you can't come into Ben Harbor, it's problems, you're gonna get jacked and all, and it's not happening. There's people coming in and out every day that can attest to it, not happening.
Just to throw out that first license, we did get $56,000 from Noble. It was the only one that was open at the time, so 56,000,
That's right.
56,000, just something.
6 months of it. That's
So-
good.
So it'll be bigger this coming year,
When is that?
So,
at the end of the year.
yeah,
We
we're
will-
gonna,
we-
we're gonna get a lot more money
Should
out
be coming in
of
soon.
marijuana. The
Commissioner,
people,
Henry had a question, I guess.
people did that. The people did this, but let me talk about the micro business. That's citizens project. That's citizen project. Now, Detroit, our sister city, they would not let anyone have a license until their micro businesses came up. They went and got a consultant to help their micro businesses open. After that, they allowed the other recreational marijuana facilities to open. Now, that was what I call compassion, making sure that our people, that their people had what they needed.
First.
And it is when I talked to the young man that opened there in Detroit, he is so happy. He supports his family, his grandparents, everybody else. So it is a good thing, but for us to have 3 medical micro business license. Now, from my research, the state of Michigan said that if we issue recreational, that we could not do micro business. Now, I'll need to find out if that's true. But I want us to, first of all, when we wanted to do marijuana, medical, we asked for the medical not to go in the general fund. How selfish can we be to try to get our parks or our whatever done? But so it's in the general fund now, all 6 of them. But if we open up this door and flood Ben Harbor, 4.3 miles with more marijuana, then take that money specifically for something for the residents. If it's the parks that need something done, if it's whatever it is that we have neglected our people on for years, whatever it is, take some of that money,
No statute.
all of that money, and put it on those projects. So I'm not really for expanding this too much in our downtown area. We already got a reputation, and they already branded us in St. Joe. So when you see them come across that bridge, they're getting it and going back home. Look at how many people in any of those places that's working. In a community like us, it should be a lot of us, and it's not the case. So I'm really not sure about expanding this, but if we do, then we need to put something in place to make sure that the residents are actually benefit from some of that money.
I had a couple of questions for Mr. Little based on what Commissioner Henry said. Do you know about what Commissioner mentioned? Is that accurate, that if we increase the retail, we would no longer have the opportunity for 3 micro businesses?
No.
Okay. Do we have an opportunity, to her suggestion, to pre-allocate a portion of the funds? Like we say we're gonna proceed with this 9, and we got 9 additional applications. Could we pre-allocate it for what she was suggesting, the park or whatever? Is that an option?
It's normally done through the budget process.
Okay. Okay. And the only other comment the commissioner had said was she had mentioned that in Detroit, they kind of supported the micro first, which I like that, but I don't think it's realistic here because if nobody's applied for it, who are we supporting? Because you're saying you didn't get any applications.
No,
You and I went to,
I know.
okay,
I'm not gonna bring up you
okay,
and I,
but I'm
what
saying-
I feel like is we never we talked, but we never actioned it.
is needed. What is
I
needed
agree.
is that technical skill. So when we talk about how they have not been able to apply for certain things because of the skills that they have, it goes, hey, do you know the Ben Harbor High School graduate people that read from the 7th grade? Do you know that we're all subject with lead poisoning right now? So there is some issues, and we have to make sure our people have the tools they need to be successful. It might not be a college degree.
And everybody, for the record, there's a lot of graduates that read at a higher level from the graduate.
Well, I'm just saying,
Seventh grade.
In the 70s, that's what the record proved.
Yeah.
And the newspaper only prints at the 9th grade level.
I don't understand, Commissioner, what are you talking about?
Those are conditions that people have, barriers that they have.
So are you saying that's why we didn't get 1 micro business application?
I'm saying that there is a good reason why people, they have the interest, but they didn't know how to move forward. That is another thing that we need to try to help our people with.
So I was saying in the communications committee, I would say, put the information out about how they need to proceed to actually apply. I would put
That's
the whole
the first step.
application, I would do everything, and I would put that in that committee so that the process for the micro businesses, I will make that a topic of discussion.
And I have to just say for the record that, you know, I'm gonna use myself since you brought me up. I didn't want to use myself, but I'm someone that has a master's degree. I'm intelligent. And there's a lot of people that have degrees that look into micro business. I emailed Mr. Little, it might have been years ago by now. And it wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. I definitely can read over a 7th grade level, but it was a lot of pieces, meaning that maybe I could do the business part, but I don't know how to grow. I don't know how to grow plants. You have to have a lot of people on the team that can do the different. You don't want to go into a business to fail. You have to go into it to succeed. And I was not able to personally get the right team together where I could do this skill, they could do that skill. And I'm not saying that's everybody's dilemma, but some of that is the reason why we don't have any micro businesses.
That is a dilemma, but those are called barriers that people have. I mean,
This conversation will go on forever, Commissioner. We got.
okay, all
He
right.
had a question. Okay.
I just think we need to do some more research on this before it moves forward. Because now that it's here, I'm gonna go and ask some serious questions about the retail facility. That scared me. That scared me a lot.
But Mr. Little did say that it's not gonna affect those 3 opportunities for micro.
Well, I heard that, but I'm talking about the retail facilities and provision center, the increases causing me some distress.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, is the sale tax is 15% for the state commission for the marijuana,
I think it's 18.
18? I know it's triple like in Illinois.
Yeah.
Well, it is here.
I was gonna say, you know, the only thing that I feel like that we can do, we can move to the full commission and let the commission make any changes. And that, I mean, I don't get to do that by myself, but I feel like.
Can we kick it down the road a little bit more before we can send it to the body? Because when they get to us, we get this, we have very little time to.
I think the whole commission has this. We'll send this to the entire commission.
What does that have to do with I'm asking you, can we put it through another committee to vet it and some more, to make sure we're doing the right thing? I mean, what good is it if we can't vet it? So we vetted what we know, what we ask now. Put it through another committee and let somebody else vet it.
I don't think we need, if we don't get more marijuana dispensary here, we don't need them downtown. Downtown is good enough. We don't need them more downtown. I'm not gonna go from one to the next one. I'm just gonna go who got the best price and who got a reward program.
That's what a lot of people do. They go to the best. Yeah, they know the best part.
Can I
That is
answer?
a good, that is something to be thought about in regards to the location. Are they only to be
They should only be in downtown.
downtown
They should
area?
be in an area that's
Right.
close,
Right.
where the services, police protection, everything is easy to, if you got them spread out all over the place, you know what, you just increase your cost of servicing.
And
We
also,
got them
like,
spread out right now. They
They're
spread,
all downtown.
but mixed use, light industrial, heavy industrial, and downtown. That is an area from Fair Avenue down all the way around the river to Empire.
Did we have issue a license on Midland Street?
Yes, we did. I'm so glad in my ward. I'm so happy.
I hope it's never open.
That's just a grower license.
But that's all right.
They can't sell anything.
No, but he can grow and he can use our water and he can pay our taxes
Oh, yeah.
and he can put our people to work. And believe me, I will be in his establishment, making sure that everybody that works for him lives in the city of Benton Harbor.
Good luck with
And I report back on it.
I'd like to make at least one closing point, and that is that you hit the nail on the head. The whole situation boils down to any of these are just a business, and they require an investment on somebody's part, and it requires some business knowledge, know-how, or them to identify somebody to work with them who has that. And like you said, if you're gonna be doing growing, you gotta get somebody who understands and knows that. And there's no way to just give that to somebody. They've got to do the work, they've got to put it together themselves. And these three micro businesses, the micro business is the only one where the person can grow it themselves, store it themselves, and sell
Yeah, you do everything.
it. And they've got to have all those components.
Yep.
Those three are sitting here, they're available for anybody that's here. The difference between Benton Harbor and Detroit is 9,000 people here in Benton Harbor and 500,000 people over
Huge
there.
pool of people. And even with the social equity, I still couldn't find a team. We still didn't have the right team. You know, we had incentives, which that was a good incentive, but still didn't. I'm not saying it will never work, and I would love to meet again with you.
Well,
particularly,
we already,
Commissioner
we
Henry.
already had another meeting and two bona fide growers, proven growers came out of it. So I'm just saying,
Okay,
Madam Chair, can we take it to economic development and see if we could put in a component to help
so I would say.
the micro businesses?
I would say make the changes that you suggested and then give them to her so she can add that in there. So when it comes to the committee, it ain't something, you know what I'm saying? You have an idea to add to whatever they're asking.
And what exactly are you asking? Because I'm not 100% clear. Are you asking for a class to be presented? Or
I'm asking for technical support. I'm asking for everything that the state of Michigan.
But will we have to provide that for every business?
No, just for the micro business. The micro
Okay, but I
business
guess
is
I'm
for
saying,
residents.
if you have that information, then make that available. I don't understand, you know,
What information I come up with an idea.
the
Now, what
technical,
information do you think I have?
the
other than
technical,
the idea?
the technical information that you're saying is missing to help these particular businesses. Like is there like somebody to contact,
Let us go to planning and economic development and let these guys, let these guys use their expertise and have them to bring up that information and let's discuss it. You just can't shoot from the hips all the time. You got to have some, to see where your process is going and how it's gonna affect, who is it gonna affect at the end. You just can't keep shooting at the hip and.
I disagree, and I don't think that's what's happening here. Did you have that in?
In defense of staff, I would have to say, they better not come shooting from the hip.
I was just like, I don't think that's what's happening. I think it
I was
was.
gonna say, and you can do an amendment at any time.
Yeah.
You can come up with something that justifies a warrant
Right.
amendment. There's
Do
no
it
reason to
not do
stall
it
or
right
stop
the first time.
anything.
So Commissioner, I will say this, I'm gonna, send this to the full body and we can make any changes as the body.
We're gonna make it in the meeting.
I'm gonna.
Are we gonna do, that process don't work and you know
So,
that process don't work. When we trying to put together,
we've done it. They
yeah,
have questions, they've done it
yeah,
before.
we did and it was a
I'm gonna
ordeal.
send it forward and then if they want to do
And
something
the
else.
other thing, if this document fails, parliamentary, can we bring it back next week?
Go through, planning and economic development.
If it fails,
So that, don't be consensus from this group.
Yes.
But
You do know that this resolution for this ordinance is only about the number
The
of
number.
licenses.
right,
So like any of this technical stuff isn't included in this because it's not part of the change. The change is only the section of licenses in the marijuana ordinance,
right.
just the licenses.
That's all it's about.
So I mean, any other changes can be done to any other part of the ordinance.
Mhm.
This is just the number of licenses.
consensus to move this item.
Consensus.
Commissioner, you got 10 minutes.
Huh?
You got 10 minutes.
Contract and policy.
Responsible contract.
Oh. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, let's go back to staff. We asked staff to give us some information on it. The last time we talked about it, do we have, and I do have something to add, but let's make sure we get staff pertinent information on it.
Let me just say that this should have been asked of staff before it's put on the agenda. Nobody has done anything. Alex, have you done anything on it?
No one was there last week to get the information we needed. Wow.
Am I, I know I'm a senior citizen, but,
You're a baby.
did we not ask the attorney or somebody to look into this? Well, if we didn't, shame on us. Let's do it again
It might be-
and put it back on the agenda.
Exactly what is it we're asking that should have been looked into?
I'm sorry?
I'm not understanding. Exactly what is it you're talking
There's
about?
a responsible
Responsibility.
contracting policy that one of the labor groups has been talking about.
Mr. McGee brought that up over a year ago and brought it in, and I think it was acted on at that time.
It was what?
I think something was done on it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't nothing in it was done. It came through committee several times and some of our chairs had a problem with it. So it's back again. And I want us to vet it. I want us to see that this is something that will benefit the citizens of Benton Harbor as well as Benton Harbor. It'll take off a lot of stress of our engineering firm as well as our employees. Anytime that you give living wage and training to a person and they can work in their own city, that's a win-win situation. So that's the reason why I brought this back up again, because I want us to see the benefit that we could if we accepted a responsibility contracting policy.
But as I recall, we reviewed all of this back when Mr. McGee presented it. There was nothing on there that we weren't doing. I mean,
Oh,
basically, your HUD, your federal government requires most of the stuff that's on here. For example, purchasing department shall oversee procedure development and ordinance enforcement to all construction contracts and municipality awards in excess of 25,000. There are federal regulations if you're using federal or state money that governs that, and we do it already. When we say pre-qualifying screening, municipalities shall develop a questionnaire that it shall use to screen contractors to pre-qualify them for a construction bidding process. That's your RFQ or your RFP. It's either request for qualifications or request for proposals. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing on here that doesn't get done already. You go down to subcontractor compliance. Ensure that all subcontractors are held to the same pre-qualifying standards that the general contractors are being held to. That's done already to the extent you're allowed to do it, because a contractor, that's an agreement between the contractor and the sub, but you can set certain minimum standards that they have to apply, like giving opportunity or even preference to local contractors and that kind of thing, but otherwise, it's all done.
Well,
That's why we didn't do anything back then.
well, let me ask you, Mr. Lou, how does that work out for us as employees? How does that work out for our citizens when it comes to jobs? So you saying we're doing it, and what is the outcome? What is the measurement of humanist stuff that happens to our people if we're doing this? We got $30 million worth of contract on the lead line, and I can't prove to you, and nobody else has proved it, brought it out to our attention, how many of us actually work? How many of us actually got jobs? So if we're doing it, then something is wrong, because the outcome does not prove that we're helping the residents. So that's why I thought, let's entertain this, but now that you telling me that we're doing it already, then let's approve it. We're already doing it, let's approve it and see what happens.
And what I'm telling you is if you approve this, nothing changes.
Well, let's do it then, Commissioner Chair?
Is this in a, formal resolution?
No, it's not, but we could put it in one. I thought we would have the attorney give us his expertise on it. It came in, we asked him, he was sitting here.
Clerk, could you send us to the attorney to have him look at it and review it?
Could you send
May I make
would you
another-
send that
Yes.
draft? Would you send that draft of
City
the other municipality so he could see what it basically said?
Yes, sir.
My recommendation would be to have them come back and do their presentation again so we can be sure of where it is and what it means.
I think that's a good idea, because actually, if you
Mr.
take,
McGee?
it's a good idea. Because if you take this and just lay it down beside the policies and procedures that we just put out,
Yeah.
that deals with the portion that deals with contracting, you'll find this basically there.
Okay, let's have him,
We'll get it.
okay.
So we do have a procurement policy
Yes, we
Yes, we do.
outlines all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what they have a twist that I can't quite remember. So we'll have them come back and refresh our memory.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, that is it.
I have one question. It was one up on, the updates for D. Is there an Army subcommittee yet, or anybody,
They-
any follow-ups or anything?
They have not, that's why it's on the agenda. Remember
Yeah.
that meeting? So we had it on last one.
Okay, so there's nothing, as of now, nothing.
Nobody has done anything,
Okay.
and I knew, you know,
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. 'cause
give
I know
people an
I missed a few
opportunity
meetings.
to,
Okay,
so
okay.
that was it. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Adjourned.
I was here, but
That ain't- we ain't able to-